Hi, my name's Tom. This lesson is about pentatonic licks in all fourths tuning, so EADGCF. I talked about the pentatonic shapes in the last video, and in this video we're going to be talking about purely some licks we can use in it and some licks that maybe don't work particularly well. So the first thing I want to talk about is a very common lick that a lot of guitar players use, myself included, up until a point in my playing, that's probably served them well in many situations, and unfortunately is one of the things that certainly for me has to be sacrificed completely in this tuning. I'm not big on bending on the guitar. I'm not hugely into it. I'm not one of the guys who does the big, big lavish vibrato and stuff, and I haven't been for a while. I've got fairly weak fingers for that stuff. I haven't trained them up as well as I should, and certainly in this new tuning, because the top two strings are tuned up, there's even more risk of snapping strings, even when I'm just using nines, which I've got on here. But there's one lick in particular, and there's a lot. I know there's a serious amount of decent pentatonic licks that require a decent vocabulary and bending, but there's one in particular that everyone knows, which is that kind of lick. And normally we would have been playing, and this is going to sound horrible, we would have been playing on the 5th fret with the top two strings, obviously because of the new tuning we've got to bring that down. Now this presents some difficulties for me and possibly for you guys, because I've got very small hands, so I can't reach this note to bend this note with the ring finger, which I normally would do. It doesn't quite feel comfortable. I'm having to do that, which is not a very great shape to be in, and it starts to hurt my hand. So I have to use my little finger, which doesn't work very well. It's something, if you work out, you can get going, but for me it's something that's gone out the window. Now with that going out the window, there are a lot more opportunities that open up, and I'm going to talk about those now. So I mentioned this lick briefly in the last video, which is one that I'm in love with in this new tuning, that takes advantage of being able to play the pentatonic in whole tone gaps. So which up to speed should sound something like this. And all I was doing there is ascending the scale in a sequence and using hybrid picking to play any string above that I'm currently picking with my pick. So slowly that would be something like, and we're playing the 3rd fret below the A note, which is still within the key, and oh yeah, we're in the key of A minor for all of these licks. So something like that, and then but we can improvise and mess around with that pattern. Excuse me. And whenever we come to a string, the string with a 3rd on, this one, we know that we're playing 3 notes. On that string there. So there's some really cool hybrid picking opportunities that open up because we can just repeat this pattern across the neck. There's another technique that I like to use, that I use in standard tuning, which is I like to call double picking, but I don't think that's accurate, where we would ascend like this. And I'm doing exactly the same thing as I was with the hybrid whenever we've got one of the string sets, one of the strings where we will be playing 3 notes on that string. So that's the lick slowly. I'm playing a triplet there, so that will be 3rd fret to the 5th, double on the 3rd fret of the A, and then 5th fret on the E, pulling off to the 3rd fret, double on the 5th fret on the A, and then which is 3, 5, 7, and then double on the 5th fret of the D, 7th fret on the A, pull off to the 5th, and then double on the 7th fret of the D string. So and then just repeats up. And again, with both of these licks, we've got the advantage of being able to play it starting on any string set. So or we could have done the same note that we played before on starting on the A string. Again, advantage of this tuning, we can move these patterns and shapes around and it's exactly the same. Another thing that I like to do in this tuning with pentatonic licks is string skipping. Now this is going to be a bit tricky because my stretch isn't that good and I haven't played properly for a while. But any string skipping licks that we did with the pentatonic shapes can be moved up a lot easier this time, because instead of when we were doing them in groups of 2 strings, when we got to the top 2 strings we would have to move any shapes that we use, because everyone knows or hopefully you should know that, let's just take a pentatonic fragment. If we play 5th fret to the 8th, then 5th fret to the 7th on the next string, to move that up 1 octave we just move it to the next set of strings up 2 frets. And in standard tuning, to get onto the next set of strings we would have had to move it up 3 frets, but in this tuning obviously it's all symmetrical, so it's up 2 frets. So up 2 frets, up 2 frets, like that. Another wonderful thing with this is if we were in standard tuning again and we were playing that pattern starting on the A string, as soon as we got here we would have to move halfway in that pattern, so we couldn't keep that little fragment going. But again, in this tuning, and then if we had extra strings, this is another good thing as well. If you've got a 7 or 8 string guitar and you tune it in all fourths, use these patterns all over and all over. So yeah, the string skipping lick, it's a bit of a stretch. Excuse me. So we're using a 3-note per string thing, we're doubling up notes, but it still gives a cool effect. So we're playing 5th to the 8th to the 10th, and then on the next string we're playing 5th to the 7th to the 10th, and that's the only pattern we use. And we're just going up that pattern. In the next octave we're going up and then down, and as soon as we hit the root note again we go up, and on the next pattern next set of strings we go up and back down. So that lick slowly will be and then up to speed would sound something like this. And again, I've been saying it 1,000 times over, we can just move that onto the A string and start the pattern there. I'm not going to go all the way up because I can't quite finish that lick because of the lack of a 7th high string. But that pattern and fragment will work and transfer onto those string sets like that. Now the last thing I want to talk about in terms of pentatonic licks is the Frank Gambale style of approaching pentatonics where he sweeps through them. Now I had a message from a YouTube user who's been watching these videos who said that their Frank Gambale licks have they're not able to do them anymore, which is a shame because I took a lot of time out to try and work on that economy picking technique. In fact, every time I'm going down the strings I'm using that. But there are ways to get these things to work within the whole fragment concept. So if we take something, I'm going to play it down here, but I'm going to play the lick up to speed up here because my fingers aren't big enough to do the stretch. And we're basically playing a minor 7 arpeggio, but it is, all the notes are contained within the pentatonic scale. So if we play 5th fret on the low E to the 8th, 7th fret on the A, 5th on the D, and then all the way up to the 10th fret on the D, And then what we do is, so we do 5th, 8th, 7th, 5th, 10th, and then back to 5th, and then slide up to the root, which will be on the 7th, and then we just start the pattern again. Now that's not strictly a Frank Gambale style lick, but it's certainly incorporating sweep picking or economy picking within a pentatonic concept. So that kind of up to speed up here would sound like this. And then you can repeat that again on different string sets, and you could play it down here and then move it up the octave by going up here. So, excuse me, one more time. So that's just a brief rundown of a few licks that we can do in this tuning, and hopefully with me yapping on and on and on about the fact that we can just repeat these fragments on these string sets and we don't have to make concessions for these tunings, you can take full advantage of the repeating octaves that we can get on the guitar and get some really interesting intervallic licks out there. Now, I said at the start about the bending, sort of, for me it left my playing long ago before I even thought about switching to standard tuning. I know for a lot of people that's a very expressive and very integral part of their playing. I just haven't spent a lot of time on working out how to incorporate that into my fourth tuning playing, but if you take some time to do it, I mean, if you think about it, we are really just moving everything on the top two strings down one fret. There must be ways to incorporate those techniques that you've worked hard on developing into this new tuning if you're serious about it. So hopefully you'll be able to take some of these licks that we've looked at and maybe expand on them, look at them on your own and maybe fit them into your playing, and hopefully once more this is making you feel more comfortable in this tuning if you've decided to adopt it. Next lesson we're going to be talking about scale fragments, and this is a very important lesson because it really unlocks the fretboard in this new tuning. It's the main reason I switched, made the switch initially, and all this other stuff has sort of been exciting things I found on the way. So please stay tuned for that if you're interested. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.